Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Little Talks with PopCultX. It's our conversation series where we chat with a wide variety of creative people. Like today, we are here with Raquel V. Reyes, a fantastic author who is carving out murder mysteries for us to all enjoy. So welcome back to PopCultX, Raquel.
Thanks so much for having me, Danny. I appreciate it.
Yes. Now, if you don't remember everyone out there, Raquel was part of our Latin Excellence Writers Roundtable, and we wanted to dive a little bit deeper into what inspires Raquel in her writing. So just right off the bat, Raquel, I noticed that the kitchen and food plays a large part in your writing, at least in the titles from what I've seen. Now, Is it just in your writing, or how important is food and the kitchen to your family and your upbringing?
Well, so for this series, it's a culinary cozy. So of course, I have to talk about food. But I didn't want to talk about food in the way of, I'm going to take a picture of this pretty food that I had, or you have to go to this place because it's got the greatest thing or whatever. I wanted to talk about the history and the culture behind it, because that's what interests me. So how did that food come to being identified as part of our culture, right? And what elements of those came. And since I specialize on, Spanglish is my thing, I'm centered in the Caribbean. And so I talk a lot about the food that came over with the colonizers, the food that came over with the enslaved Africans, how that changed and mixed together. And so I do like to talk about it means a lot to me, but it has to do with culture. And I think that that's the theme that runs through all of my writing, is to have that cultural representation.
That's excellent. I enjoy that. Now, you mentioned Spanglish. Now, I really enjoy the fact that you don't give definitions for non-Spanish speakers, and you make them figure it out within the context or go look up the word. Is that something that was just, this is how I speak, this is how I write, and I'm just going to put it out there and you guys figure it out?
That's how you learn a language, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And you have to trust the author, and in this case, the author is me.
It's you.
I'm not going to make it impossible for my reader. I'm not going to make obstacles for my reader. You have to trust. It's almost like when you read it, you just have to go, okay, I'm here for the ride,
Yeah.
So that, I have a theater degree, and part of when you walk in the door of a theater is there's a contract you have. You, the audience member, agree to suspend your disbelief. Yeah. Right. So when you pick up a novel to read or pop in your earbuds to listen to an audiobook, you also have a contract with the author to trust them, So I do have Spanglish in there. Most of it is through context. Occasionally there might be something that I need to translate a little bit, but I never do a direct translation. Right. I always give you the idea of it or the feel of it. Yeah. And then I would say probably 0.05% of the time, I'll have a little word in there that I don't, because it's for a very specific reader. And somebody mentioned something, it's like little Easter eggs. And I'm like, exactly.
Yes. Very true.
And it doesn't matter to the plot or the story. It's just a little fun something.
Yeah.
It's like, I will put hoopinha into a story because hoopinha is a pineapple drink that is made in Florida. Most made in Miami, actually. Most Miami Cubans know it and love it. It doesn't export to other states. It did originally come from Cuba. I mean, it's just a very specific thing that's just, to put a smile on somebody's face.
Yeah, no,
but
that's
maybe
awesome.
Not everybody's face.
Well, I mean, things like that I think are really cool, especially for a reader like me who might not know what that was. And I go, what is that? So I'll look it up, and then I realize where it came from and where it originates and how it ties back into you, the author, and that connection it makes with you with your culture and the city you live in. And I think that just astounds me. I really enjoy when that happens.
Isn't it the fun of reading? Isn't that the reason why we all kind of devour books?
Yeah.
Right. It's this you know, the one, you want to be in a different place possibly, but you also want to learn something new. And it's this submersion into an environment and so forth. So, I mean, I think we can do the same thing with contemporary pop fiction. You know, it doesn't just have to be like this world building that is in the fantasy world.
Right.
You know?
No, I agree. I agree completely. When did you realize that you wanted to be a writer or a storyteller? Was there like growing up, did you always like create these stories for everyone, or?
You know, I mean, I read tons, but from a very young age, and I don't know why, I wanted to be a poet, and I started writing poetry.
Okay.
In elementary school, I won an award for some poem. Like literally, there's a picture of me, you know, getting a little creative writing award. Looking miserable because, you know, that's, but yeah. I mean, that's the writer's soul, isn't it? Not
right. Yeah.
But yeah, but I guess I never thought I could write a full-length novel. You know, like I wrote plays because I have a theater degree, and then I wrote short stories because I've always loved short stories. But making that jump to, oh yeah, I can really complete such a long story. Like it's a different part of your brain to write a novel. Yeah.
So when you made that leap into the novel or even into short stories from your poem and playwriting, what did you find most challenging about that?
Yeah, it is. For me, writing a longer piece is always the middle, the muddy middle. You know, it's like, you know what has to be there, you know where you're going, you know the end point, but there's this big middle that you have to do stuff with.
Right.
I think I'm getting better at it. It doesn't bother me as much, but like the first couple of manuscripts I had, that was like the toughest. Like I can get to 25K like this. Like, that's not a problem. It's after that point that you're like, oh, I got to do another 25K and then another 20. But like, once you get to the middle, then you're like, oh, okay, it's downhill. I got you.
Right.
It's a numbers game. It's a mental trick you have to do in your head. Well, I have to do in my head to be like, you're almost there, you know?
Almost. Now, as a mystery writer, do you come up with like the ending in your mind first? I mean, do you have like an idea of how you want it to end before you even get to the middle part? Or is that something that just, happens along the way?
I write, I'm somewhat of a pantser or a discovery writer, as they say. And so I have a skeleton plot. I know a couple of key scenes. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I know who the villain is for the most part. But I wouldn't say I know it all. Like, I think that for me is the joy of it.
Yeah.
Is that journey and finding those little things, or when something clicks and you're like, oh, it's almost like I planned it.
Yep.
I mean, I'm pretty good because I have to put a lot of red herrings in my stories and keep track of things and so forth. And so I write with a notebook beside me to try to like keep notes to remind myself, oh, you've got to go back and pick up that thread, or don't forget you left somebody out there, and you need to go back and get them, or, some of those things. But then sometimes like organically it just happens and you're like, oh, that was beautiful. That was nice. And you go, like it was meant to be.
And you look around for people to acknowledge it, and you're like, "Hey,
Yeah, where's the applause?
exactly."
Where's the applause, right?
That's really cool. That's really cool. I hadn't thought about taking notes while you're writing, so that's interesting to hear. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't call myself a writer, but I've dabbled with like short stories and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I never thought about taking notes. So that's really a helpful piece of advice for me and maybe for anyone else out there. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Now, do you make it a point to write every day or only when like you're inspired to?
No. Oh my goodness. If I only wrote when I was inspired to, I would never make my deadline for my contracts. No. I have to write every single day. I'm a slow writer. I don't like some people sit down and they can, write 5,000 words in a sitting. I can't do that. That's not how, I operate. So, some days I'm only writing 246 words. I mean, in reality, I might have written 700 words, but 246 words that stay on the page. And, but I also kind of edit as I go. So my process is long. Like there's some people who write a first draft and then they go back and they write a second draft and they do my first, second, and third draft is all the same.
Gotcha.
Right. And then, but yeah, no, I have to write every day. And, it's a muscle that you build. So if you do want to have a career as a writer, you have to find your pattern, your schedule, the routine that works for you, and you have to be consistent in it. So maybe for a long time, I used to say that I was a weekend writing warrior because I would, write on the weekends only. I mean, I still am. Like today, I put in we're recording on a Saturday, FYI. I put in 6 hours today. You know what I'm saying? And I can't do that otherwise, but I do write, 1.5 to 2 hours every morning. It's important.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. Practice makes perfect, I guess, or perfect practice.
Well,
makes perfect.
It's like anything. It's muscle memory. Like it's just easier. Like, I had to go on a conference and I don't write when I'm on conference because, I don't enjoy writing on a laptop in other places and so forth. I kind of like my quiet cave, but anyhow, so I was gone for 4 or 5 days and I come back. And, it's like, oh, my God.
How do you get back into it?
It's like, oh, how do you get back into it? But you just sit your chair in the butt and you sit down and it's like amazing. Like your hands know what to do. Your brain knows what to do. The worrier in you doesn't. And so you can't listen to them.
Yeah.
And that's when that muscle memory kicks in.
Very true.
Yeah.
So how do you balance your writing with like the rest of your life that you do? Are there struggles and joys? What's that balance there?
Before I got signed and before I had a contract with multiple, multiple books that I have to finish, I would let other things get in the way of my writing, but I can't now. I can't. Like for me, like the deadline is like the end goal. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, I am not going to fail. I will make that deadline.
So I hear you. Yeah. I mean, for me, I completely understand deadlines. I do a lot of web design stuff. And if I don't set myself a deadline for when to have the code complete, it just could be an ongoing thing that I'll never finish. So I completely understand deadlines. Yeah. You write a lot of mystery books and you have, you're the president or the founder of LatinaSleuths.com. That's your website that you run.
That's kind of like my branding. Yeah. That's just me.
And it's really cool. Now, but if you had the opportunity to write a different genre of book besides mystery, what do you think you'd find yourself doing?
Probably I would write kind of nonfiction socio commentary,
Okay.
like cultural commentary, and that kind of thing. Probably more like maybe on the academic side.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, it sounds like textbooks to me.
I don't think like I don't. Yeah, I enjoy other genres, and I certainly enjoy them when they're put on the screen or in film or so forth. But I don't think I could get in the mindset to write like a historical set in the Victorian age or like a whole fantasy. Yeah, I don't think I could do it.
Well, I want to circle back.
Never say never, though. Never say never.
There you go. That's true.
Never say never.
Next thing we know, you're coming out with a historical fantasy fiction set in the Revolutionary War. Yeah, who knows?
No, I know. We're not going with wars. If I did anything, I would like. Okay, so you've challenged me, and now my brain is like clicking. Okay, so I would write a complete underwater world. Ooh. That would be the thing that I would do.
I like it.
That would be the thing that I would do.
Now, would it be underwater world with people who can breathe underwater, or just encapsulated in air bubbles and kind of? Oh,
no, they would breathe underwater. That whole encapsulated under air bubbles, like no, I'm not like no, there's no Atlantic. No, yeah, they would be like some hybrid something that can.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We'll see what comes to that. I'll put you in the notes. I'll
there you go.
Thanks for the idea.
I want to circle back real quick to something that you mentioned in the Writers Roundtable that we didn't get a chance to explore. And you talked about Desi Arnaz and Ricky Ricardo. Now, you said it would be a short story, short 2-minute little tidbit, but I want you to talk a little bit about that. How did that come about, you meeting him? What was that all about?
Okay, so let's see if I can find it now. I found it. Okay, so go to Planet Money, which is the NPR podcast.
Okay.
And find the episode about Desi Arnaz. Okay. That's like everybody's homework. Okay. That's just everybody's homework. Now, so as a kid, I would watch I Love Lucy on reruns after school because the people who took care of me were these family of these 3 sisters from Havana. They were educators.
Oh, okay.
And so we came home and we would have to, do our homework or whatever. And then after that was done, if there was time, we would watch TV. But they did not have cable. There was not going to be cable. It was just what was on. And it just so happened what was on were these reruns, right? And I also remember I was like, why is it in black and white? But anyway. But I watched it, and here is this family that looks like my family. My mother's American. My mother had red hair. My father's Cuban.
Okay.
Some of the fun that they have with the accent and some of the misunderstandings and some of those things, like I could very much relate to. I mean, that same cultural battle was going on in my home. It was been going on in my life forever. But anyhow, I could just see myself and really, I was like, I didn't feel alone. And especially since I'm an only child, to have something to identify was super important. It didn't matter that little Ricky was little Ricky. I could still identify that, they had this little kid, right?
Right.
So anyway, great. So then it turns out that Desi Arnaz went to my school. I went to a small Catholic school in Miami Beach.
Okay.
I guess when he came from Cuba or whatever, he attended this school, or maybe he sent his kids to a school. I don't remember, but he attended school. So then they make this big deal about Desi Arnaz is coming. Oh my God, Desi Arnaz is coming. Like, tell everybody in the school, right? Right. But remember, I'm a kid.
Mhm.
I don't know that Desi Arnaz is Ricky
It's
Ricardo.
Ricky Ricardo. Okay, gotcha.
Like,
okay.
I mean, right? I'm in elementary school. I'm not making these connections. Anyway, so finally, I guess somebody explains who it is. Maybe the teacher explained who it is or whatever. Great. So we all go outside. He arrives in a car, probably, I feel like it was like a Cadillac or a Lincoln. I don't know what it is. It wasn't a limo, though, I don't think. But anyway, he gets out and he doesn't look like Ricky Ricardo because, of course, he's older. And I've been watching these shows, right?
Right.
But anyway, like everybody's like, oh, Ricky, I mean, we're very, at that point, there was a high percentage of Cubans in Miami, like when I was highest. Now there's a little bit more diversity within the Spanish speakers in Miami. Okay. But at that point, it was almost exclusively Cubans. I mean, he was a hero. He was a hero. And like, it was just electric and you got to see it. And it really stayed with me. So then all these years later, I've always kind of told the story that, how important he was to me and so forth and so on. And then I listened to that podcast which was only like 2 years ago on Planet Money. And it talks about what he did for Hollywood, how he changed Hollywood, how powerful he was, that they then boycotted any Latinx, Latino, anyone. They boycotted us from Hollywood for all those years. And you can go back and you can see we were not represented after that because he did it too well, too successful, and they couldn't handle it. I mean, it is an amazing story.
That is. Wow.
And it is. So listen to it. So that's my my homework for everybody. Go listen to this.
We'll do that. Yeah, I didn't even think about.
Yeah, I'll try to send you the link, and maybe you can put it in the program notes or something like that.
Yes, I will do that, or I'll go find it and I'll put it in there. It will be the link will be in the program notes for sure, one way or the other.
Awesome.
You spoke a lot about your family. Are they supportive of your writing, or what do they think of it? Or
sure. I mean, like, I think I'm like the only writer for sure. Like, so I'm a little bit of an outlier within my family. But they're very supportive of me. They might not completely understand it, but they're very supportive of me.
That's cool.
They weren't really supportive of me when I said I wanted to quit college and write, but now they're supportive of me all these years later.
Well, are there any characters in your books or writings that have similarities with people you know or yourself, or how much self-reflection is in there?
Any writer who says that that is not the case is lying. Of course we put people in there. Right. Maybe not the whole of the person, but certainly characteristics from people that we know. So absolutely. I mean, a couple of the characters have traits from people that I know. I've used some family names in there just for my own fun, not for any significance.
Right.
Actually, the main character, her name is Miriam Quinones. My mother-in-law's name is Miriam. Quinones is a family name from a couple of generations back. And I like to tell everybody the mother-in-law in my stories is not nice. People love to hate her. She's, passive aggressive, and she's, but my mother-in-law is great. Like my mother-in-law is wonderful. I love her. And, that's the reason why I named my main character Miriam. So
you have to tell her, this is not a reflection of you. I don't think of you like this. That's cool. If you had to characterize your writing with one thing, if you could say my writing's this way, if you just characterize it in one word or one sentence, what would that be?
Yeah, my writing has to do with cultural identity.
Okay.
Like, even though I write this series and there's this character, if you look at my short stories, because I also write short stories, all the characters that are in my short stories, all the main characters are also either grappling with their own cultural identity or using their cultural identity as a motivator. You know, it's a theme that runs through my writing, and I think it even ran through my poetry and my playwriting too. So I just think it's part of my part of what I do.
That's really cool. That is really cool. That's something I struggle with, cultural identity, coming from mixed heritage. And it's like, how do I explore both of them without leaving one out? So yeah, I really like.
And also, if neither has embraced you completely,
mm-hmm.
right, or found fault with you for whatever. I mean, that's one of my things that I talk about with the fact that I use Spanish and Spanglish, is that for a long time there was, in my personal life, there's like this gatekeeping thing about that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you not speak it well enough? So if you don't speak it well enough, you get a commentary on that.
Yeah.
But then if you don't speak it at all, you also get commentary on it. And so it's like, you can't have it both ways, people. You can't have it both ways.
Very true.
I love to tell Latinx, to encourage Latinx who maybe do not have a strong foundation in Spanish. Maybe it was not spoken in your primary home. Maybe you only heard it when you went to your abuelos or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like in your subconscious, but maybe it's not at the forefront. You know, I just want to like embrace it. Don't be ashamed of it. You can learn. You can, use the language, change the language, even if you need to. I mean, we are using Latinx and Latin. Why? Because it's a gender language and we have now evolved and we want to be more embracing. The language changes. Use the part of the language that serves you. Okay? Make the language work for you, and don't be afraid of it. I want to encourage people to do, because truly, for a long time, I felt ashamed that I was not better with this language. I mean, my name is Raquel Reyes. I should be able to speak perfectly, but I don't. My grammar's difficult. I didn't learn it on a page. I learned it hearing it. I learned it speaking it. I didn't learn it sitting at a school desk and reading it and conjugating verbs were the worst. Oh my goodness. Even though I did take it in high school and so forth, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
They just like me because they like my accent. They would always be like, "Oh, read this passage." And I'd be like, "Okay." I can roll my R's, but I would also like to know how to conjugate a verb, but whatever. But yeah, I just want to encourage people to tackle it. Make it your own. Don't be afraid of it. Just, it's yours.
It's yours. Yeah, that's true.
It's yours.
Yeah.
Don't let somebody take that from you.
That's completely true. I hear that. That resonates with me. Hopefully it resonates with some of you out there. And we thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you besides your website on social media platforms? Are you on still? Are you still on Twitter?
Poor Twitter. Oh, so sad. I miss it so much. I had so many good friends, so many good conversations. I'm not moving to the other platform, that everybody's talking about, the dinosaur platform. I'm not moving to that one. But anyway, so I'm sorry. I'm on Instagram quite a bit. You can find me on Instagram, and I'm on Book Talk. So go to TikTok and I do some book recommendations over there and some other stuff over there.
Oh, so that's what that is.
Yeah. I love the Book Talk side of TikTok. Love it. There's some great stuff there. I mean, I also kind of like the cultural and political stuff, but I will not be engaging in that. I feel like, I enjoy, consuming that. I'm not going to be a creator of that stuff.
Gotcha.
But I'm also on Facebook just because I kind of have to be. So if you're a Facebook person, you can find me there. I'm not as active. I mean, if you want to see the stuff that goes on in my life, go to Instagram and go to TikTok.
Gotcha. Well, Raquel, thank you very much for sharing some insight, for giving us some advice, and for taking some time to talk with us today. We really appreciate that. Everyone out there, if you haven't had a chance to go pick up Mango, Mambo, and Murder, which is the first in her Caribbean Kitchen Mystery Series, which won a Lefty and Best Humorous Mystery Award, right? It was also nominated for an Agatha Award and optioned for a film.
Yep, and it won an International Latino Book Award too.
See, there you go. Go find it. Go buy it. I read it from the library.
And then go get the second one too. Calypso, Corpses and Cooking. That's the second one.
Calypso, Corpses and Cooking. I like it. So yes, go follow her, buy her work. Let her know that we want to read more of her from her point of view and her story, because it is very poignant in these times. So thank you again, Raquel. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. It was great. Thanks for having me.